Listen closely, my friends. The most dangerous person in the world is not the one who is physically strong. It's the one who has control over their desires. You think you're in control, but are you really? One image, one video, one thought, and suddenly your mind is no longer yours. A few seconds of temptation, and you lose your energy, your focus, your discipline. Think about that. If something so small, something that only exists on a screen, can control your actions, then who's really in control? You or your impulses? Most people don't destroy their lives with big decisions. They destroy it through small, repeated moments of weakness. Lust is not just a feeling, it's a force. If you don't control it, it will control you. It will drain your energy, kill your focus, and slowly turn you into someone weak without you even realizing it. But here's the truth. That same energy, that same desire, can either destroy you or make you powerful. In this video, I'm going to give you 10 deep, hard-hitting lessons, not surface-level advice, but real psychological and philosophical principles that will help you take back control of your mind and master your desires. But understand this. These lessons are not easy. They will challenge you. They will expose your weaknesses, and most people won't make it till the end. But if you do, you won't just feel motivated. You'll become someone who is in complete control. Lesson 1. Master the moment before the urge. There is a moment so small, so fast, that most people never even notice it. It's the moment before lust takes over. A thought appears, an image flashes in your mind, a feeling starts building in your body, and right there, in that exact second, your entire outcome is decided. But here's the problem. Most people never see that moment. They skip it. The urge comes, and they react instantly. No pause, no awareness, no control. And just like that, they lose. Understand this deeply. Lust is not what defeats you. Your automatic reaction to it is. Think of it like this. You're holding your phone, you're alone, and suddenly the urge hits. Your hand moves without thinking. You open something, and a few minutes later, it's over. You didn't choose that. You just followed a pattern. That's not control. That's conditioning. Now imagine something different. The urge comes, but this time, you pause. Just for 3 seconds. You don't fight it. You don't run from it. You just observe it. You feel it in your body. You notice the thoughts, but you don't act. In that moment, you separate yourself from the urge, and that changes everything. Because now, you're not a slave to it anymore. You become the one who decides. Most people live like dry leaves. Any desire comes, and they get carried away. But the one who is in control is like a mountain. The storm hits, but it doesn't move. From now on, practice this. The next time you feel an urge, don't react immediately. Pause for 3 to 5 seconds. Ask yourself one question. Am I going to follow this or control it? That one question creates distance, and in that distance, your power lives. The moment you stop reacting instantly, you stop being controlled, and that is where mastery begins. Lesson 2. Separate desire from identity. Let's get something brutally clear. Just because you feel something doesn't mean it defines you. You feel lust, and instantly your mind says, "This is me. This is who I am. I can't control this." But that's the illusion. Desire is not your identity. It's just a signal, and the moment you confuse the two, you lose control. Think about it. A thought appears in your mind, something sexual, something tempting. Did you choose that thought? No. It just showed up. So if you didn't choose it, why are you acting like it owns you? This is where most people fail. They don't separate what they feel from who they are. And because of that, every urge feels powerful, personal, and impossible to resist. But here's the truth. You are the observer, not the urge. Imagine you're sitting in a room and someone knocks on the door. That knock is the urge. Most people immediately open the door, invite it in, and let it take over the whole room. But you don't have to do that. You can hear the knock, recognize it, and still choose not to open the door. That's control. Now apply this. The next time lust appears, don't say, I am weak. I am like this. Instead say, this is just a thought. This is just a feeling. It will pass. Because it will. Every urge has a peak, and then it dies. But only if you don't feed it. The more you engage with it, the stronger it becomes. The more you observe it without reacting, the weaker it gets. Over time, something powerful happens. You stop being controlled by every random desire. You stop reacting automatically. You stop identifying with weakness. And you start becoming someone who has authority over their own mind. Because once you understand this, lust is just a visitor. You decide how long it stays. Lesson 3. Starve the fuel, not just the urge. Let's be honest. You don't lose control in one big moment. You lose it long before that. The urge you feel right now didn't start right now. It was built hours ago, days ago, through what you exposed your mind to. The content you watched, the images you scrolled past, the thoughts you entertained, all of it became fuel. And now, when the urge hits, it feels powerful. But here's the truth. You're not fighting lust. You're fighting everything you fed it. Imagine a fire. If it's small, you can control it easily. But if you keep adding wood, again and again, eventually, it becomes uncontrollable. That's exactly how lust works. Every time you watch something stimulating, every time you let your mind wander, every time you entertain those thoughts, you're adding wood to the fire. And later, you wonder why it's so hard to control. It's not hard. It's just overfed. Now here's the shift. Most people try to fight the urge in the moment it appears. But real control doesn't start there. It starts before that. It starts with what you allow into your mind. From now on, start asking yourself, is this feeding my discipline or weakening it? Because everything you consume is shaping your level of control. You scroll mindlessly for 30 minutes. Your mind becomes restless. You watch triggering content. Your urges become stronger. You entertain fantasies. Your resistance becomes weaker. And then, when the moment comes, you don't stand a chance. But if you flip this, if you reduce unnecessary stimulation, if you guard your eyes, if you become intentional with what you consume, something powerful happens. Your mind becomes calmer. Your urges become weaker. Your control becomes stronger, because now you're not constantly feeding the problem. Think of it like this. Discipline is not built in the moment of temptation. It's built in the moments before it. Control what you watch. Control what you think about. Control what you give attention to. And you won't have to fight as hard later, because the fire was never allowed to grow. Lesson 4. Kill the fantasy before it controls you. Let's go deeper. Lust doesn't start in your body. It starts in your imagination. Before any action, there is a picture in your mind, a scene, a fantasy, a story you start playing again and again. And the more you replay it, the stronger the urge becomes. Understand this. You're not addicted to the action. You're addicted to the fantasy. That's why even when nothing is happening, your mind keeps going back there. Because it feels good. It gives you instant pleasure, without effort, without reality. But here's the cost. Every time you entertain that fantasy, you lose a little more control. Your focus drops, your discipline weakens, your standards lower, and slowly you start preferring imagination over real life. That's dangerous, because now you're not living, you're escaping. Think of your mind like a screen. You can't stop images from appearing, but you can choose whether to keep watching or change the channel. Most people keep watching. They zoom in, they add details, they extend the scene, and within seconds, they're completely lost. But someone in control does something different. The moment the fantasy starts, they cut it off. Not after 5 minutes, not after it gets intense, immediately, because they understand one thing: the longer you entertain it, the harder it is to stop. So instead of fighting a full-blown urge, they stop it at the root. Now here's how you do it. The next time a fantasy appears, don't argue with it. Don't try to win against it. Just shift your attention instantly. Stand up, move your body, change your environment. Focus on something real, because attention is fuel. Where your attention goes, your energy follows. If you keep feeding the fantasy, it grows. If you remove attention, it dies. Over time, something powerful happens. Your mind stops going there as often. The intensity drops, the control increases, because now you're not a passive watcher anymore. You're the one holding the remote. And that is where real discipline begins. Lesson 5. Transmute the energy, don't waste it. Let's be real. What you call lust is actually raw energy. It's intensity, it's drive, it's life force, and most people waste it. They release it, escape it, and after a few minutes, they feel empty, tired, unfocused, because they didn't use the energy, they got rid of it. But here's the truth. This energy was never meant to be wasted. It was meant to be redirected. Think about it. The moment you feel a strong urge, your body is activated, your mind is alert, your focus becomes sharp. That's power. But instead of using it, you throw it away. Now imagine this instead. The urge hits, but this time, you don't escape. You take that same intensity and channel it into work, into training, into building something. Suddenly, that same energy that was pulling you down starts pushing you forward. That's called control. Think of it like electricity. Uncontrolled, it can destroy, but directed, it powers entire cities. Your energy works the same way. Most people short-circuit it. You're going to channel it. From now on, do this. Whenever you feel a strong urge, don't sit still. Move. Do push-ups. Go for a walk. Start working on something meaningful. Because if you stay idle, your mind will take over. But if you act with intention, you take control. And here's the deeper shift. Stop seeing lust as your enemy. Start seeing it as a signal that you have energy, that needs direction. Because the goal is not to become emotionless. The goal is to become disciplined with your energy. The moment you learn to redirect it, instead of releasing it, you become dangerous. Because now, nothing is being wasted. Everything is being used. And that is how you turn weakness into power. Lesson 6. Escape the trap of idleness. Let's expose something most people ignore. Lust is strongest when you're doing nothing. No purpose, no focus, no direction. Just you, your phone, and an empty mind. And in that space, your mind starts searching for stimulation. Because it hates stillness without purpose. So what does it do? It goes to the easiest source of pleasure, and that's where you lose. Understand this clearly. You don't just struggle with lust. You struggle with lack of direction, because when your life is filled with meaningful work, when your day has structure, when your mind is focused, those urges don't hit the same. But when you're idle, they take over. Think about your worst moments: late night, alone, scrolling, nothing important to do. That's not random, that's a pattern. Idleness creates vulnerability. Now compare that to this. You're busy. You're working on something important. You're physically active. You have goals you're chasing. In that state, your mind doesn't wander the same way, because it's occupied with purpose. That's the difference. An empty mind looks for pleasure. A focused mind creates progress. So the solution is not just resist more. The solution is give your mind something better to focus on. From now on, structure your day. Don't leave large gaps of doing nothing. Have clear tasks. Have goals. Have movement in your life, because discipline is easier when your life has direction. And here's the hard truth. If you keep living without purpose, you will keep falling into the same cycle. Not because you're weak, but because your environment is setting you up to fail. So change the environment. Stay active. Stay engaged. Stay moving. Because when your life has momentum, temptation loses power. And when your time is filled with purpose, your mind stops chasing cheap pleasure. That's how you break the cycle. Lesson 7. Control your environment, or it will control you. Let's get something straight. You don't struggle with lust in isolation. You struggle because of your environment. What you see, what you scroll, what you allow into your space. All of it is shaping your mind more than you realize. Because your environment is not just around you, it is inside you. Think about it. One suggestive video, one triggering image, one random scroll session, and your entire mental state shifts. Not because you suddenly became weak, but because you were exposed. And exposure creates temptation. Here's the truth most people ignore. You cannot have a clean mind in a polluted environment. You can't expect discipline while constantly feeding your eyes with triggers. You can't expect control while living in constant stimulation. It doesn't work like that. Think of your mind like water. Clear water stays clean, only if nothing dirty is poured into it. But if you keep adding small drops of pollution, over time, it becomes contaminated. That's exactly what happens to your thoughts. It's never one big mistake. It's small exposures repeated daily. Now here's where control actually begins. You don't just fight urges. You remove access to triggers. Unfollow accounts that stimulate you. Avoid content that activates your impulses. Stop putting yourself in situations where you're tested unnecessarily. Because discipline is not only internal, it's structural. And here's a powerful shift. Strong people don't rely on willpower alone. They design their environment to support control. That's intelligence. If your phone is your biggest trigger, change how you use it. If being alone late at night is your weak point, change your routine. If certain content is weakening you, cut it off completely. No negotiation, because every trigger you remove is one battle you don't have to fight later. And slowly, something changes. Your urges become less frequent. Your mind becomes calmer. Your control becomes easier. Not because temptation disappeared, but because you stopped feeding it. That's real discipline. Not constant fighting, but smart avoidance. Control your environment, or it will quietly control your mind. Lesson 8. Every time you obey lust, you teach your mind weakness. Let's go deeper than motivation. Every action you repeat becomes a command to your brain, and your brain listens. Every single time you give in to lust, you are teaching yourself something. You are teaching your mind. When pressure appears, I escape. When desire comes, I obey. When things get uncomfortable, I choose pleasure. At first, it feels small, just one moment, just one decision. But your mind doesn't see it that way. Your mind sees patterns, and repeated patterns become identity. That's why the real danger of lust is not the moment itself. It's what it slowly turns you into. Because every time you surrender to temptation, you weaken the relationship you have with yourself. Read that again. You start trusting yourself less. You say you'll stop, but you don't. You say you'll control yourself next time, but you fail again. And slowly, something inside you breaks. Not your body, your self-respect. Because deep down, you know when you are betraying yourself. And that silent disappointment changes the way you see yourself. Now here's the scary part. The brain always chooses what is practiced. If you practice distraction, you become distracted. If you practice weakness, weakness becomes automatic. And if you practice instant gratification long enough, discipline starts feeling painful. That's why so many people today can't focus, can't stay consistent, can't sit in silence. Their brain has been trained to constantly chase stimulation. Think of your mind like a path in a forest. The more you walk the same path, the clearer and easier it becomes. Lust works the same way. Every time you repeat the cycle, you carve that path deeper into your brain, until eventually your mind starts going there automatically, without thinking, without effort. That's why this battle is deeper than pleasure. It's neurological, psychological, spiritual. But here's the powerful part. The reverse is also true. Every time you resist an urge, even for a moment, you are also teaching your brain something. You are teaching it, I do not obey every impulse. I can feel desire without becoming controlled by it. I am stronger than this moment. And slowly, a new path begins to form. At first it feels difficult, unnatural, painful, because your old patterns are strong. But every time you choose discipline, the new path gets stronger, until one day, control becomes automatic. That's when real freedom starts. Not when the urges disappear, but when your mind no longer bows to them. Because the person you become is built by what you repeatedly obey. Lesson 9. Lust is often a symptom of emptiness. Let's be brutally honest. Sometimes it's not even lust. It's loneliness. It's emptiness. It's stress. It's emotional pain. But instead of facing those feelings, you cover them with stimulation. That's why the urge becomes strongest when you feel empty inside. After rejection, after failure, after stress, after a hard day. Because in those moments, your mind wants escape. And lust becomes the fastest drug available. For a few minutes, you stop feeling pressure. You stop feeling sadness. You stop feeling reality. But then it ends, and everything comes back heavier than before. That's the trap. You are not healing the pain. You are sedating it. And sedation is not freedom. Think about this deeply. Why do urges often appear when you are emotionally low? Because the brain is searching for relief. It wants dopamine, distraction, comfort. Not because you're evil, not because you're broken, but because your mind is trying to escape discomfort. The problem is, every escape strengthens avoidance, and eventually, you stop learning how to face life directly. You feel stress, you escape. You feel pain, you escape. You feel emptiness, you escape. Over time, your mind becomes addicted not just to lust, but to running away from yourself. That's dangerous, because now you are no longer in control of your emotional state. Your impulses are. Imagine a man trapped in a desert. He's thirsty, exhausted, desperate. Then he sees salt water. For a moment, it feels like relief, but the more he drinks, the worse his condition becomes. That's what fake pleasure does. It promises relief, while quietly deepening the emptiness underneath. Now here's the deeper truth most people never realize. A distracted man can avoid himself for years, but eventually, he still has to face what's inside him. So instead of constantly escaping, start asking harder questions. What are you actually feeling? What are you trying not to face? What emptiness are you trying to fill? Because sometimes the real battle is not against lust. It's against the silence inside you, and the moment you stop numbing yourself, you finally begin to understand yourself. That's where healing starts. Not in distraction, not in pleasure, but in awareness. Because real strength is not the ability to escape pain. It's the ability to sit with it without needing to run. Lesson 10. Become someone your desires cannot control. At the deepest level, this battle is not really about lust. It's about who rules your mind, your higher self, or your impulses. Because every human has two voices inside them. One voice wants comfort, pleasure, escape, instant satisfaction. The other wants discipline, growth, self-respect, control. And your life is shaped by which voice you feed more. Most people think freedom means doing whatever they feel like doing, but that's not freedom. If you cannot say no to yourself, you are not free. You are controlled. A slave is not only someone chained by the outside world. A slave can also be someone ruled by their own desires. Think about that. A man can look powerful on the outside, but if he has no control over his urges, he is weak where it matters most. Because true power is invisible. It's the ability to feel temptation and still remain unmoved. Imagine a king sitting on a throne. Now imagine that every random person can walk into the throne room and command him. One tells him to become angry, another tells him to become distracted, another tells him to chase pleasure. If he obeys all of them, is he really a king? No. He only looks powerful. That's how most people live. Every impulse gives an order, and they obey instantly. The urge appears. They follow it. The feeling comes. They surrender. No resistance, no awareness, no command over themselves. But a disciplined person becomes different. They understand something most people never will. An urge is not an order. You can feel desire without submitting to it. You can experience temptation without becoming possessed by it. That is mastery. And here's the deepest part of all. Every time you resist lust, you are not just avoiding pleasure. You are rebuilding your character. You are proving to yourself, my mind belongs to me. My body does not control my decisions. I choose what kind of man I become. That self-respect changes everything. Your eyes change, your energy changes, your confidence changes, because discipline creates inner power. And people can feel it, not because you say anything, but because controlled people carry a different presence. Calm, focused, grounded, like a man who is no longer fighting himself inside. So understand this clearly. The goal is not perfection. The goal is authority over yourself. Some days will be hard, some urges will feel intense, but every moment you choose discipline, you move further away from slavery and closer to freedom. Because in the end, the strongest person in the room is not the loudest one, not the richest one, not the most admired one. It's the one who has mastered themselves. And once you do that, nothing else in life controls you the same way again. So now, you understand the truth. This was never just about lust. It was about control, discipline, identity. Because the moment a man loses control over his desires, he slowly loses control over his life. His focus weakens, his energy drops, his mind becomes restless. And the worst part is, most people never even realize it's happening. They keep chasing pleasure, while their potential quietly dies in the background. But you saw something deeper. You realized that every urge is a test of whether you will live as a slave to impulse or as someone who rules their own mind. And understand this: no one becomes disciplined overnight. This battle is won in small moments. The moment you pause instead of reacting. The moment you close the screen instead of feeding the urge. The moment you choose purpose over pleasure. That is where transformation begins. Slowly, your mind becomes sharper. Your focus returns. Your confidence grows. Not because life became easier, but because you finally stopped betraying yourself. And once a person gains control over themselves, they become dangerous in the best way possible, calm under pressure, focused in chaos, unmoved by temptation, because now their mind is no longer controlled by every feeling. So from this moment forward, remember this one sentence: an urge is temporary, but the person I become by resisting it lasts forever. Master your mind, control your desires, and become someone your impulses can no longer rule, because real power begins within.